Today we're chatting with a Daygamer from the Big Apple. New York City is a very good, but a very hard Daygame city. This guy had previously done tons of approaches, but with very little results. Yes, some numbers here or there, but even that was inconsistent. He was willing to put in work, was doing long Daygame sessions, and always relied on his vibe to get good responses from girls. He even had coaching with the one and only Tom Torero, but still it wasn't working, and then he decided to get coaching with me. We worked for around 1.5 to 2 months between in-person and remote coaching, and he's finally getting numbers and dates consistently in New York City and even got a Daygame lay on a Daygame trip. New York City is a weird place for Daygame. If you're a decent-looking social butterfly with good Daygame skills, you will do really good there. But if you're not a natural, it's a very hard place for learning. And this guy definitely isn't a natural, but he's someone who's willing to put in the work. This isn't one of those wild 5 lays in the first month of Daygame stories. This is a story about a guy who came to get coaching knowing that it's going to be a hard journey, and then at the end, after doing the work, he started getting consistent real results. If after listening to this interview you start thinking that my approach to coaching might work for you, then you can find all the details about how coaching usually works, the approximate pricing, etc. by clicking the link in the description. There you'll also be able to schedule a call with me to talk all the details. Or you can check out my free Daygame course where I will teach you the same techniques that I teach most of my in-field coaching students. On top of that, you'll also get access to my in-depth texting and dating guides. All of this is available for free on daygamecourses.com. And now, as usual, let's jump into the interview, which as usual when I have guests on is audio only. And we're here with Skirmisher. So let's start with going into a little bit of a background info about you, because there are different types of guys listening to these interviews, just so that they can understand kind of what's your personality like, what's your background like, so they can see, you know, whether you're at least somewhat similar to them and their situation in life. So maybe give us some background information. Where are you from? Kind of where are you located? Approximate age range, what do you do more or less for a living in broad terms, all of these things.
Yeah, so I live in New York. I'm in my early 40s, and my background, I'm actually from India. But I've been living here for like many years.
So you pretty much, you moved to New York City when you were pretty young, or to the US when you were pretty young, and you spent a very big part of your life there. And without going into many specifics and maybe naming companies or anything like that, but kind of what more or less of an industry, which direction are you in?
Yeah, I work in IT.
Okay, so you're one of the smart IT guys. Yeah, it's a very, I would say, like a decent chunk of people I work with are in the IT industry. And let's dive into a bit of a before after story. Let's look at how did you what's your Daygame history? How did you start Daygaming? How were you doing? And all of these things.
Yeah, I think I started a long time ago. I worked with, initially I worked with some indirect approaches, which, helps you socialize a lot more, make a lot of friends. But, I didn't get a lot of results from that. Then I met Tom Torero. I got coaching from him. That was also many years ago. And I got, some lays from it. But it was like, very sporadic, and it required a lot of effort.
So you're saying it was a long time ago. How long ago did you actually start Daygaming?
I think roughly, I started with Tom Torero maybe 10 years ago.
So we started around the same time. Like more or less, maybe we started like 6 months earlier or something like that. So when you were saying the results were kind of sporadic and it took a lot of work to get any results, do you know more or less, like, was there like an open delay ratio that we can talk about, or it was like you have no idea?
I would say it was maybe around 300 approaches per lay. So I think it was actually quite a lot of work, and I didn't have any structure that I was using. Tom Torero was, big on vibe. So I would just try to elusively find for the vibe which sometimes was there, sometimes was not there. So it was quite difficult, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that is interesting because Tom Torero, one of the OGs of Daygame, he's the guy who's very, very good at explaining things on videos. His content is top notch, all of his kind of podcasts and all of the videos he published, some of the courses, very, very good stuff. And then I'm actually surprised that he was kind of relying on Vibe when it comes to coaching, but that's kind of common and that's one way to do it. But then you daygame for a little bit, but then there was a reason you stopped daygame. So stop daygaming. So maybe let's jump into that.
Yeah, so I think through Daygame, I met a girl, and then I got into a relationship which lasted many years. And so I was obviously not daygaming during that time. And then last year I broke up. And so then I wanted to start daygaming again. But it was a completely different experience. It felt it was much more difficult. And even restarting in New York City is not so easy because, I went through the process initially many years ago, but then restarting was much more difficult. I was getting a lot of blowouts. I was not dressed well. I forgot how to dress well. So it was, let's say in the first few weeks I was day gaming, it was a pretty bad experience. And then I was looking around the internet. I found your videos and I said hey, this is great. And I think I reached out to you at that time.
Just out of curiosity, what was it about the videos or about getting my content that attracted you initially?
I think you're very real about what happens. It's nothing seems fake. And because I had done a fair amount of day gaming before, I could relate to the content. And I saw, you were speaking about the problems that I was actually facing, not just recently, but even before when I was day gaming. I think you said if you didn't do 10 sets in 2 hours, you have AA, which is approach anxiety. And then I just took that to, I said yeah, that's true. And I fixed it. The other thing is you also emphasized the importance of style, and you said that you also work with a stylist, which made a lot of sense because when I worked with Tom, I also got a stylist myself because I knew that was important. And especially in New York City, it's extremely important. And everything that you explain in your videos made a lot of sense to me as well. The terms were were clearly explained. I just felt like you were a good teacher, and you actually thought about the problems, seriously and how to fix them.
Yeah, these are some interesting points because people think they don't have approach anxiety, but then they're going out and they're approaching 4 girls in 2 hours, and they have spotlight effect. They're looking for the perfect girl, they're looking for the perfect situation, but that actually is approach anxiety. I always say when people are being very picky about who they open, and they open 2 girls an hour, I would always say it's totally fine to be picky in dating, but you can only prove to me that is not approach anxiety if you're doing enough volume. If you're approaching 10 girls in 2 hours, you can be as picky as you want. That is totally fine. That's not approach anxiety. That's, having higher standards. That is perfectly fine. But, someone who does 2 sets in an hour, it's well, obviously it's approach anxiety. But you also had a thing where your day game sessions were not the typical, 2 hours, 10 sets.
So, yeah, I think when I was day gaming originally, before my relationship, I used to do very long sessions, somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, with some, small breaks in between, of course. But it was I used to just do it on the weekends and spend my weekend doing that. Yeah, and I think I realized from your videos that that's not typical, and it doesn't have to be that much of a chore. And so I think, yeah, it makes a big difference if you can just do it in 2 hours, which you can do it, much more regularly. And it's not as stressful for everything else in your life. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, because if you're just, spending all of your weekend day gaming, I mean, that's fine if you have a lot of time and you don't have anything else to do. But a lot of people, they're busy, even weekends, maybe you're working in your business, you're going to the gym, you're hanging out with your friends or more girls. And, it's important to be effective about this. There's nothing wrong with opening when you see a girl, randomly, but you don't have to make your whole weekend about it. I totally agree with that. And I like it you said, it's kind of my philosophy about coaching in general is I don't care how a student does during coaching. I care how a student does 6 months after coaching. And for a student to do good after coaching, I have to pay attention to how he does without me, because a lot of students do good while they are with a coach. And that's actually whether that's with me or with someone else, they do okay with a coach. But then when they're solo, it stops working. And this is where style actually comes in. It's very important to put it simply, it's very important to look fuckable. And in a city like New York City, it's a very busy city with a lot of people wanting something from you on a street. And in a place like that, if you don't look sharp, you're gonna get blown out. And I had never seen racism before I went to the US. I had never really experienced it, but New York City is one place where you kind of experience this. This thing with style, it applies to everyone, but it applies to, everyone who's not white, even a little bit more. Like it's definitely more. This is what I learned from Mr. T. He's a black Daygamer in New York City, very good Daygamer, one of the advanced guys in our group chat with guys from that I coach and guys going through my online coaching program. He is actually the guy who told me that once he changed his style and started looking really, really sharp, all of a sudden he was getting really good reactions. And I remember that it was similar for you as well, where after you worked with a stylist, which is already included in it's not an upsell, it's included in coaching. I pay for my student stylist from my pocket. And I remember you said that you went back to New York City and you were getting reactions that were completely different.
Yeah, 100%. So I think I remember before changing my style, maybe I would get to talk to maybe 2 in like 10 girls who would actually stop. But I think once I worked with Anna, who's the stylist, uh, 8 out of 10 girls are stopping and at least chatting with me, right? So I think that's a huge difference, and I didn't even believe that it was possible in New York.
Yeah, she's worked with, I don't know, like she's been responsible for my style for like 10 years, and she's worked with most of the guys that, well, not most, but like a majority of guys that I've coached. But before we're going to start jumping into your coaching experience, maybe we can look at what are some other beliefs that you had before coaching, and then that now you realize, oh, okay, now I view this completely differently. You already said that you were relying in your day game on your vibe. That's one big thing that you used to do. What else?
Yeah, I think I did not believe in structure. I was just, I got coaching from Tom, but I really didn't follow the structure. Even that, even whatever he taught me, I was just kind of going through the motions, which I didn't want to do this time, because when you're young, you have a lot of time. But when you're old, your time is much more precious. So you want to maximize everything. And so I really wanted to focus on making things more efficient and not just like spending hours and hours. So I think, working with you, I think I started believing in structure, and there's a reason for everything. Like, when you're new, you are nervous, and then the many tools that you can use to fix things. And I think I really started believing in that. And even the things that I didn't understand, I just start blindly following, if that makes sense. So I think that was a big shift for me, working with you and watching your videos. And also another reason is also it helped me looking at all your videos and your interviews with other people. It makes a lot of sense that if you do not believe that the structure is going to work for you, you will not follow it, right? Like if you think that it's going to work, then you will follow it. And I think that was another belief shift, that hey, I can follow something and I can learn, change my behaviors. I think that was also a big shift for me.
Yeah,
I
that's the
also
thing
did, I
with
mean, I said like I didn't want to waste a lot of time, and so I wanted to learn things properly also this time.
Yeah, I like it approach. It's an approach that people have when they're more mature. Maybe they can approach, starting late 30s. Usually this is what happens, like younger guys have a very different attitude, but when they're approaching 40, they're more they have a bit of experience in life and they're like, okay, like let's do things as they should be, not just, kind of freestyle it and wing it and whatever. And the interesting thing with structure is when guys learn about different parts of Daygame, they learn about a strong stop and stacking and storytelling and challenging. They learn about all of these kind of parts of Daygame, but they never learn, even though it is explained, like it is explained online. Like they never learn how all of these things click together, because all of these things are good, but they're not just separate tools that you can use. They're parts of one system, and they all work in one system. And when you, for example, guys, like challenging, it's one of the, you have to challenge a girl to increase attraction. Yes, but if you do that in the beginning of a set, she's just gonna leave because you're being a dick. Whereas if you do it once she really likes you, then it's like, oh my god, this really amazing guy who by that time she thinks you're amazing is not agreeing with me. Oh my god, I have to do something. And guys don't really understand it. And I like that we talked about this during coaching as well. It's like, oh, this works, this starts to work, oh, this makes sense, that makes sense. Yeah. So what was your goal from Daygame? What were you trying to get out of it? Because some guys want to learn Daygame because they just want to have some fun. Others want to find a wife on yesterday, and different goals. There are people who want something in between, kind of have fun for a while, improve their dating skills so they can meet, kind of, let's call them like higher quality women, if you want to say that, and then maybe start the relationship. What was your goal?
Oh, I think I just wanted to dig in for like a couple of years, meet a lot of people, and then I don't want to be in my late 40s and not be in a relationship. So I think I do want a relationship eventually, but maybe for the next couple of years, improve myself, meet a lot of people is where I'm at.
And I assume that before we met, before you kind of reached out to me, before you said, hey, let's do this, let's get coaching, I assume you explored the market a little bit. You already touched a little bit about why you decided to work specifically with me, but are there any other reasons, or we already covered them?
Um, well, I think it's really, I think the deepest reason is, when I look at your content, it's focused on problems and solutions, right? And I know what the problems are because I approached enough, I did enough day gaming to know what the problems are. And I necessarily didn't have the solutions. And you were saying, like, one of the things that I saw is, hey, if you're day gaming for 6 months and you're not getting consistent results, which was me when I was doing day gaming, before my relationship, right? So I was doing, 300 approaches, which is just chance, right? It's not really any kind of skill, or you cannot rely on that. So
Yeah.
that resonated, that video resonated with me. And there were a bunch of other things, right? So when I look at your tips and I implement them, it makes an immediate difference. Even when I was trying out your videos and your tips, even the small things help, big things help. Everything makes sense. Everything that you say makes sense. And it feels like everything you say it for a reason. And I just felt like you actually, think deeply about these things and how to help people. And it was very, I mean, for me, it was very obvious that I had to work with you. It was not even that much of debate for me. In my head, it was very clear that you were the right person to work with.
Nice. Thank you very much. Listen, I wanted to ask you, because I don't think I've asked you this, but I always tell to people that before hiring someone, watch some of their, like, consume some of their free stuff. and then see if that free stuff changes anything at all for you. And if it does, then their paid stuff is definitely going to be like on a completely different level. And since you went over my content before you decided to, well, watch some content before you decided to reach out to me, do you remember any specific things that you tried and you saw a real difference in your approaches or not?
Yeah, one is, I think one thing I already mentioned, like, 10 approaches in 2 hours, and you have to do 25 a week, and it should not take a long time, right? So I think that one was very clear. I started applying that. Then you mentioned style was very important, which I already knew from my earlier experience. When I was working with Tom, he said that I should get a stylist, and I did that, and that made a huge difference. Um, and so I knew that was very critical as well. And then the little things that, your structure is like fully on YouTube, and I was trying parts of it, right? Having a strong stop. I really couldn't figure it out myself. Maybe that's the most difficult part, to figure it out by yourself without coaching. But, all the other things that you were explaining, right? Like what is stacking, what is vibing, what is teasing, what is all the concepts that you lay down, you explain them very clearly, which I never really understood what those were. So now I understand them much more clearly when you explain them in your videos. And I think there were a lot of other videos where you diagnose problems, right? Like I think you have troubleshooting videos, which also made a lot of sense to me. I think it's all those details. Yeah, I mean, I could say maybe a few more things, but the many, many things that added up and clicked for me.
Okay, nice. So let's maybe jump into the coaching experience. How was your coaching experience? Give guys some, like an idea about, what happened and how was it? And
yeah, I think when I started working with you, I think the first thing we did was work with Anna, the stylist, and that was a few weeks before, right? So, and sorry, even before that, you said I needed to do 25 a week, and each session should be 2 hours and 10 approaches. So I started doing that regularly. And the second thing is you got me in touch with the stylist, and I figured that out. It took a couple of weeks. And, with that, then I think we met in Europe. And so I think, yeah, that was like, even before things started, even before the coaching started, a lot of the work was done, right? So, for example, if you come to coaching with a lot of approach anxiety, maybe you will waste like 2 days figuring that out. But I didn't have to do that, right? So
I just wanted to insert one thing here, like the preparation work that we did with you, kind of where you start going out before coaching. Now I actually do even more in depth. Like I've changed it, even like they're reporting to me every week and things like that. But I just wanted to make clear that the idea is to help people overcome approach anxiety on their own before we meet and start going out. Because I think it's it's a good indicator. If I can get them to approach before we meet, it's much more likely that they're going to keep daygaming after coaching. I really noticed this. But this doesn't mean that if they can't approach, then it's not going to work. Because sometimes the important part is for them to try, go out, build the habit of being out in the streets, even if they maybe can do like one approach or maybe even zero. Because sometimes a lot of people get coaching because of approach anxiety, but it's important to try, and then we can fix the rest in the coaching. But I just wanted to clarify this thing about preparation work.
Maybe I'll just say that again, right? So I think even before the coaching started, you said I should be approaching. So by the time I came there, like, I could focus on the next set of steps. You could learn something beforehand, so you could focus on other things when I started working with you during the coaching.
Yeah.
So, and then you got me in touch with the stylist. It took a couple of weeks to figure that out. And once we did that, I came to Europe to start coaching with you. And during the coaching itself, it felt like, everything was very easy to follow. And after every set, you would analyze immediately, like, hey, what happened? What I could have done differently? What were the mistakes and what I could have done differently? So all those things, and that's a habit that sticks with you, right? So immediately after every set, even now, I think about, what happened, what I could have done differently, and that's where you actually learn. And that it's a habit that you know, inculcate like while you're in coaching itself, and not analyze, after the entire session is done. That makes a big difference. And then you see everything in practice, right? So I think it's very easy to follow whatever you're saying, and very simple steps, and very you know you learn step by step. And yeah, it does make a big difference, working with you, and it's going step by step. It makes a big difference.
Nice. So we did 4 days in person in a location in Europe, and then as usual we did some integration sessions, because we usually do a few sessions remotely after coaching, just to make sure the student keeps going out after coaching, to make sure he doesn't slide back into old habits. And we usually do that once the student is back in his home city, just to make sure that he's adapting to his city, because there are always slight differences, but we make sure that he's adapting. Anything else that stayed in your mind from your coaching experience?
Um, I think the sessions after the coaching, once I came back to New York, also were very helpful. And I'm also like, we have weekly check-ins, monthly coaching calls. Everything is tailored towards this, like, the person who's learning, right? It's not like, hey, you came to the coaching session and then you're on your own trying to figure things out, which can be extremely difficult, which is what I did last time. So I think the follow-ups after coaching, and actually thinking about what's working, what's not working, and getting consistent feedback, all those things, it's just kind of a very holistic approach to learning. And that's how I think everybody should teach. And otherwise, it's very difficult to learn. You could do well in the coaching session, because you're giving feedback right then and there. But if you don't have any follow-ups, you might get lost very soon, and you might get disillusioned, like I was. Yes, maybe I'll get results, but it's going to take me a long time. Versus, you do not know whether you're improving. You do not know whether you have bad habits. There's no way to diagnose yourself. So it's very difficult without all these things, the steps beforehand, and the way you coach, and how you think about problems, and how you teach the student how to diagnose their own problems. And everything adds up, right? So it's not just one thing, everything kind of adds up.
Yeah, because we're doing with you, like you're tracking your stats, reporting directly to me. We have like weekly check-ins where you report about how is everything doing. I'm still giving you homework, still continuing, and it's going to continue for at least 10 months. And we're doing monthly coaching calls. Yeah, that's because you did the whole mentorship thing, kind of mentorship package where we actually keep working after coaching to kind of help with the integration and all of that. And so here we are. We're kind of a few months already after coaching. So how are you doing now? Kind of what are the changes before and after?
I think one thing we already mentioned, like even in New York, most people stop and talk to you, because, that's a big difference. I never even thought it was possible in New York. So that's a big difference. And I think as long as I follow the structure, I get consistent dates. Uh, I think you suggested a place in Latin America. I was there. Uh, I think I was there for a few weeks. I went on maybe a dozen dates. I got one lay. So yeah, I think things are much more consistent, let's say, than before. I don't have to struggle as much to get dates.
Yeah, so it's like a consistent flow. And yeah, it's a, with the place in Latin America, the way I view this, people who are learning in very hard locations, sometimes it's a good idea to go to an easier location to just play the game on an easy mode for a little bit to get a bit more experience, understand how things work, and then you can go again to the harder environment and polish these things that you were able to practice more in this easier experience. That's why I suggested you go to this place, and it turned out very good because yeah, you got around a dozen dates. And what I liked in our group chat, you were you posted all of your date reports, kind of telling you were kind of reporting about how you're doing on dates, and it was very obvious that each time you went on a date, you recognized the mistakes you were making, and in the next date, you improved them. And over time, your dates got better and better and better. And they were, longer, and you started pulling, and you even got delayed at the end. So that's, I'm very glad to see that. I think it was a very cool thing to go there. So what's up with your day game right now? What are you focusing on in your day game right now?
I think just following the structure closely and being able to know, what to change, what to fix. I think that's the primary goal. Just making everything more consistent is what I'm focused on right now.
Okay. What do you think, if you're gonna wrap it up, what would you say is the biggest kind of overall difference kind of before and after coaching in your day game?
I think once you know that, so I think if you just don't follow any structure, you're always maybe to a certain degree nervous, right? So that's actually difficult to deal with and it actually makes things worse. But if you know that you're following a structure, it helps you completely relax when you're talking to people. And that helps you be more of yourself, be more relaxed and confident. So I think that's a very big difference. And the second thing is, as long as I follow the structure, I get consistent dates, which is good. And that was not the case when I was daygaming, even before my relationship.
Yeah, that's why I like structured approach to coaching, because it does these two things. First of all, you know exactly what to do. And once you figure it out, you start getting dates. It's a system that just works. You just need to learn the system, which, takes quite a bit of work. But the other reason is once you know the system, once you know exactly what to say, once you've learned all of these things, once it kind of makes sense and the puzzle kind of fits, once the system starts clicking in your head, you're much more relaxed. You can start chilling out. You can incorporate more of your real personality in game. You can build that system around your real personality instead of, doing like some copy paste stuff or whatever. And great. Well, I'm gonna say you a big thank you for doing this, for telling your story, because you've listened to quite a few stories like that, and I know that a lot of guys love these stories. So thank you very much for doing this, and well, hopefully we see each other in another time and another place. If you want to understand whether my approach in day game coaching could also help you start getting consistent numbers and dates, then check out the link in the description to find out all the details about how coaching usually works, the approximate pricing, etc. And there you can also schedule a free call with me to talk all the details. Or check out some other testimonials. There is a whole playlist linked in the description. That's it for this time. See you in the next video. Ciao, guys.